sun is numb, the Keurig's clean, your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
I am
Happy to be here. I'm happy to be
that's
here.
so. Oh God, yeah. So lovely.
Everyone's happy. We're here with the beautiful Alex Ptak at Ptak Jokes. Welcome to Ponzi Scream, Alex Ptak. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, David. I'm tossing my hair in the moonlight.
I have to confirm. Okay, that's one Pinocchio right there. It is noon. Alex is not in Korea, where it would be night right now, or whatever other part of the world. So that's one Pinocchio for you right there.
Danny is lying. I'm calling in from the People's Korea, and I want to talk about this Donald Trump.
I was thinking about the fucking John Oliver Trump bit for a while. I was riding my bike and I was thinking, do you think John Oliver feels remorse for that? Like if you got, I don't know if he would ever admit it publicly, but if you got him in a private situation and you were like, hey, that was one of the dumbest things you could have done, right? Like, do you think he'd be like, yes, that was, I'm so sorry about that.
That episode came out. He basically resisted talking about Trump for the first 6 months of Trump being on the scene. And then his first stab at Trump was the Drumpf bit. And I think he must feel horrible for himself for that.
I don't think he feels horrible for himself at all. I think he has his own TV show. He probably feels fantastic.
I would agree. If it was another person, I would agree. But I just think that, I don't know if he feels remorse, but he probably feels bad, if that makes sense.
Well, for name shaming, certainly,
Right, name shaming is never okay. If anything, he could feel bad because it was a strategically planned tactic to get inside the psyche of Donald Trump, and it clearly did not work. I don't think Donald Trump cared at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him a little bit of a pass just because it was early 2017 and people were still just sort of like, oh, what bits do I do? I'm not really sure. So he took a big swing and it ended up being a big old whiff in the long run.
Hey, there's 70 million people in this country who fucking love calling him Drumpf. There are Cheeto head, those sorts of people like that. There is still a huge percentage of the population that thinks that's the funniest thing on earth.
Cheeto heads, parrot heads, Jimmy Buffett fans. They all love saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, all those people.
I think that it's a tactic that would have worked if he finished the job and not only called him Drumpf, but then moved on to anti-German racism, World War I style.
Yeah.
Can we trust a Kraut in the White House? That kind of thing.
Can we trust this Kaiser pig? I don't think so.
Everything he does is for the Hun.
He has impure blood, all right? His humors are all out of balance.
Yeah, he wasn't colluding with the Russians. He was colluding with the Prussians, folks.
Oh, folks. Yeah. Welcome back to Comedy Central or HBO, whatever the show's on.
As you can clearly tell, he has too much. He has an imbalance of bile in his blood right now. All right, he doesn't have enough bile.
Is that a German thing?
No, it's a humors.
Danny's going farther back in time to destroy Trump. We must go farther back.
The four humors: piss, shit, cum, and
bile.
Shit,
and bile.
And alt comedy. That's a humor,
Hello.
It's
a podcast.
Hey, you shut up your mouth.
So today we're talking with Alex about the fabulous German-friendly town of Boston, and
that's right.
And Alex is a native there. And Alex, tell us a little bit about Boston.
Boston, it was the first city, is the greatest city. The only one that, we put this country on the map. and we took it all home with some clam chowder at the end of the day. That's what we do. Count the rings, baby.
There's
3. No, how many rings?
Yeah, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of football rings.
Oh, those rings. Yeah.
But we have many football rings.
But they're that's outside of Boston, though. That's like the.
It's only outside of Boston because the other states are too poor to have their own New England Patriots, and they're jealous. They're jealous of us because they're tiny and they have to latch on to our team.
I don't know about that.
I do like the idea of the Connecticut Patriots. That just sounds funny.
Let's just say no one makes the mistake of assuming they're the Rhode Island Patriots.
The Cohog Patriots.
Oh, Peter!
New Hampshire's
Peter, remember the
pride.
time? Remember the time I bought that football team, Peter?
Peter, you can't sack Tom Brady. That bit has to end now because I don't know a second football player. Julian Edelman.
Bill Belichick. I don't know. The Gronk is gone though. He was the scariest person.
The Gronk.
I think he's the
Gronk
scary guy.
He's an ambassador for like a style of guy that Boston produces, even if he's not from Boston. We have a lot of like large Shrek-like white boys who are kind of dangerous in their size.
Yeah. Would it be fair to call him a crazy white boy?
Yeah, he's the Joe Biden of football players. He is the first one to do the tackle, man.
Charles Corn Pop Gronkowski.
He has his own island. Did you know that?
What?
No. What?
The Gronkowskis, him and his family own an island, and they all went there at the beginning of COVID, and they were like sending out pictures and stuff. They're like molding themselves into a new Wahlbergs style, like dynasty.
Little St. Gronk Island?
Little St. Gronk. Where the sex crimes are all above board.
Well, wait, no. It isn't like, this isn't like a tropical. Is this a tropical island or a fucking terrible windswept northeastern island?
Yeah, it's a little Martha's Vineyard. It's negative 10 degrees. No, it's somewhere good. It's not near where our state is.
His family just owns Greenland. That's just
I that's the thing about that guy. He's I mean, like, I don't know if I would put him on the right side of history, but like he's kind of chill. Like he's really into weed, and he's like, I don't want to get CTE'd anymore, so now I love weed.
Gronkowski,
that's right.
Yeah, he like when he retired for like a year and a half or whatever, he like started or at least is a very big spokesperson for like a huge marijuana like thing. Yeah. And,
I'll say this. I'll say one thing though about this, Danny. Not everyone who smokes weed is cool.
I'd like to see some evidence on that. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if you're right about that, David. I'm pretty sure.
Sounds like someone who's jealous he doesn't smoke weed.
Yeah,
because he can't handle it.
I've been around people who smoke weed and they're not cool. Most people are cool who smoke weed, but he might. I'm just afraid of Gronkowski. That's all I'm trying to say.
Look at him scramble to cover his bases, trying to backpedal on his anti-weed stance.
I mean, look, David, you're not wrong. I mean, what is he? He's like what, 6'4" and like a solid. Dude,
he's probably like 6'10" or something. Yeah, he's a professional athlete.
He could easily be a wrestler.
No, truly, like one of the most terrifying. Like, do you remember when like they were in the movie Shrek when Shrek is talking about how much he's discriminated against for being an ogre? Okay,
I remember every part of the movie Shrek.
Okay, so there's like, well, I think the way that he describes being an ogre is just describing Gronkowski, I think.
It's just anti-tall ableism that Shrek faces around it.
Oh,
by the way, I just looked that up. Rob Gronkowski is 6'6".
He is so I'm looking up his stats right. Yeah, I was just about to say he's 6'6", and He's
6
200.
inches.
He's 268 pounds, and he's 6'6".
That's correct.
Jesus,
That's actually pretty
Christ.
skinny for 6'6".
No, it is. You're right. He's all fucking this.
All fat, baby. Just pure fat. That's it. I think it is really funny when people say that someone's all muscle, but then 2 minutes later, that's the same person who will say muscle is actually heavier than fat. And I'm like, it can't be both.
It can't be both.
So, Alex, how did you end up in Boston? Tell us about your journey to be.
How did I end up in it?
Yeah.
I was shit out of a vagina there. And I think I was born right outside of Boston, and then my family moved to the suburbs when I was 4 or so, and then I lived there as a child.
Big man, small pond.
Big man, small pond. The small pond of one of the largest cities in America.
That's cool. Would you ever like go into Boston proper when you were growing up? And what for?
So, Boston is not as exciting as New York City, is what you have to understand. So, like, if you're going there, it's because there's like a specific store you want to visit.
Right.
It doesn't have the same like walking culture. There's not that much infrastructure that way. And if you're not like going to the bars, which had no use for me at the time, there wasn't really anything to do. So there was like a store that sold Magic the Gathering cards in Cambridge I was very into. I would go there sometimes.
Okay, this is the good stuff.
They have a wonderful aquarium.
But that's also but Cambridge is a separate city from Boston, right?
It is, but you can walk from Cambridge into Boston in a way you can't walk from Needham to Boston. So if you're over there, you'll like walk around for the day or what have you. And then you go on a lot of field trips there to watch like men in tri-corner hats tell you that like making beer was hard in 1784 or whatever.
But bad year for beer, yeah.
It was a tough year.
Yeah,
we hadn't figured out what our national brand was yet.
Yeah. Are we an IPA kind of guy, or are we a double IPA kind of a guy?
What country is this? Just in terms of beer, we're talking.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson was like a triple hop smoked IPA kind of a guy, and Hamilton was just like a pale ale kind of a guy.
Yeah. And then Sam Adams was like, I'm just making lagers, bro. It's just lagers. I don't know why you guys gotta be so difficult all the time.
Yeah, it's actually it's strange looking at it. I mean, when spoiler alert, listeners, about 2 years ago, Alex and I visited there, or rather, I stayed at his house for one night when we were doing comedy.
Ooh.
And the only way I could describe it is it just reminds me of smaller Los Angeles, because it's just like a city that is quite big, but really there's all these other fucking little things around it, like Cambridge and fucking Quincy and like Medford and like Needham and shit, like where Alex
South
lives.
Shore.
Yeah,
it's one of those things like there is like a city proper that no one goes to, and then anywhere 20 miles around it, you're like, yeah, that's Boston. It's nowhere the size of LA, though. I will say that. Very different feel going on.
Oh, yes, for certain.
A lot more like Irish ignorance seeping into the pores there.
That's purity, man.
I walked around downtown Boston one time. I went there for work, and the financial area, the financial district, is very like generic, as they kind of are. But what's amazing about the Boston like financial sector, which is where like all the tall buildings are, right? If I have it right.
That's right, David. That's where all the tall buildings are. Did you see the Prue, David?
The Prue building?
The Prudential building.
No.
Did you see the Prue?
Our one big building, so we can point to it and say, see, New York doesn't have anything on us. We got this weird building.
Oh, I see this one. Yeah, it's a really strange. It's just looks like the World Trade Center towers, except for it has like a little it has like a little condo on top.
There was a really cool
sneaker
sneaker store that used to be over there. I bet it's not there anymore. Where you had to it was like a speakeasy for shoes, and you like did a knock at the front, and they'd take you into a back room with really sweet Jordans.
Sick.
Nice.
That was cool.
One other thing about Boston is like for our listeners, Boston has a huge financial sector. I feel like it kind of needs to be noted. There's a lot of big mutual fund companies. Actually, the mutual fund, if you guys, was invented in Boston. Yeah. So the mutual fund is like a thing, that's where you put your money in like a group, like a big wash of companies, and that's for anyone to be able to invest in, and it's registered and stuff like that. And it's this probably if you don't, as anyone who isn't a millionaire or a billionaire who has money invested, or a big time millionaire has their money invested in likely in a mutual fund or a few other like related things, and that was invented in Boston. And
that's also, right, David. Wally the Green Monster came up with that one, and we said, this is good enough that you can be the mascot for our baseball team.
He earned it, man.
Well, David, isn't it the case that back before there was a clearly defined set of what was the financial powerhouse in the United States, it was kind of split between New York City, Philadelphia, and Boston, or something along those lines?
Yeah, and Chicago for commodities, because Chicago was where like all the agricultural stuff was like filtered into, and then it was taken to New York from there. Like all the goods from resource extraction from the heartland of America went through Chicago. And
if you were trying to get a sausage that was half hog and half an Irishman's arm, you had to go through Chicago.
You had to go through Chicago. And
yes.
but Boston has really developed itself because of its huge I think that there's a lot of institutions that are very related in Boston, and part of it is the fact that you have so to go over the financial companies, you have things like Fidelity Investments, you have State Street, you have Bain Capital, which is very famous for its relationship to politicians. A lot folks like Mitters Romney worked there. Deval Patrick.
Oh.
Yep. Deval Patrick, former governor, worked there. So then you have a lot of headquarters for like a bunch of big law firms as well. Have like their big headquarters there. Wilmer Hale, Goodwin Procter. These are just like big financial law firms that are all set up. Putnam Investments is set up there, and because of that, I think that the relationship between these financial like why there is so much finance in Boston, is in part due to the fact that there are so many universities in Boston.
Yes, I'm looking at this map of it right now, and dear God, there's just so many. Is there something called Tufts? Is that a thing?
Yeah, my friend went to Tufts. I used to go there and try to frighten the students because I had gotten drunk on the bus over.
Yeah, what happened? Did you frighten any?
Yeah, I would like wake up somewhere else and then have to find my way back. It was kind of interesting.
A lot of Alex's younger experiences, at least from some of the anecdotes you've told me, is just I got real shit housed.
That's when I was shit housed. Yeah, we had the reputation for drunkest city for a while. I don't know if it's left our mantle, but it was there. David is saying is correct. There's a lot of finance. There's a lot of schools. A lot of well-educated people end up moving to New England because they go to college in Boston and then are like, this is where my happy days are. I'll stick around here and make a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. Or they go to some college like in the surrounding area of New England and then get a job in Boston afterwards.
It's the capital of cocky liberal attitude in the country, I believe. There is so much looking down on everything else in America happening in this wonderful state. And that's why I think we're one of the most hated cities.
It's really strange because I mean, like, you know, we all live in New York, and you'd kind of think like, oh, that's got to be it for sure. And if I want to just like for context here, like, you know, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Like, I didn't have a lot of context for the Northeast in general when before I moved here and like what it's all about. But New York has it has its own thing going on. It's like, yeah, there's definitely like elitist shitty people, but it's also just like mixed in with a bunch of fashion dipshits and fucking like actual like old school New Yorkers calling people like slurs that haven't existed for 80 years and like a bunch of other random shit. So it just kind of gets lost in the wash. But like
New York is one of the few American cities where there is no single top to the pyramid. You know, if that makes sense. Like,
I get what you're saying.
If you're a career aspirant in Washington, D.C., the top of the pyramid is, you know, working in the White House. Same thing with Los Angeles, you know, working for, you know, I don't know, in Hollywood as an example, you know, as I assume Tom Hanks. He's the top of the LA
He's at the top. That's right.
Yeah.
He gets to open for the president on Inauguration Day.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, San Francisco, obviously, you know, it's Peter Thiel. And then in Boston, it's hard to know exactly what the top is besides maybe being Harvard, being Mr. Harvard. But
Mr. Harvard.
I guess, Alex, why don't you answer that
He's
question
the
for me
man.
instead of me projecting? What do you think is like the top
The top of Boston. Well, see, you know why you're having a hard time picking that out is because Boston does not have anything cool. Like, there's no. Like, you know, the top of Los Angeles because Hollywood is known around the world, and the top of New York, you could argue, is somewhere on Wall Street somewhere or something like that. Boston, all of our cultural signifiers are from sports because we use our massive financial earnings to just pick off all the good players for all of the fucking teams. I think that's what like if you just asked like a random dude on the street here, they'd be like the top fucking Noma or whatever. But I think it's probably the head of some investment group that nobody knows the name of. We have a lot of, I guess you could also make a push for like, we have these cutting edge like robotics and software firms here too. So you could maybe say, we're the tech head, America's tech, our gear meister. We make the robots that look like dogs.
Oh, those are scary. Those are from Boston, aren't they?
That's right. They're Boston Dynamics.
Yes, it's always I think you're definitely you're hitting a chord there, Alex, because there is a very like, well, I mean, first of all, if anybody, people sometimes forget how fucking old the city is. It goes back to this, you know, the 1600s, and it's incredibly old. So it does
in terms
have
of like America, it's the oldest you're gonna get.
Yeah, and it has like it does have sort of a deep eldritch darkness to it,
almost as, like, kind of like Danny. Yeah.
Yes. Where like everyone's, you know, you'll be like, oh, New York, I saw a celebrity walking around. That's pretty cool. Wall Street. Oh, this is great. But then every once in a while, you'll see something like, you know, Alex was just saying, where it's like, oh yeah, Boston Dynamics just came up with a dog that's a robot.
It's a living dog. They just invented the dog.
Boston Dynamics just gave birth to puppies.
Yeah.
One of the biggest upsides to it, from it being so old, and this is something you don't appreciate living there growing up, is we're like the one city that's not on a grid. It's just all cow paths everywhere, so driving around is really fun. There's like lots of sloping roads and stuff, and you'll just be on the thing that will just do a U-turn for no reason, because that's the way a horse used to go.
Oh, I'm looking at it on Google Maps right now, and this is an absolute clusterfuck. It is completely, there is no rhyme or reason. I will say though, it is incredibly funny how close Logan International Airport is to the actual city.
That's right.
It's like 2 miles. It's like there's that one center part of Boston where the Boston Commons are. It's 2 miles away from the airport, whereas like you have to drive like 30 miles from Denver just to get to their airport.
Yeah, but you know why they could put the airport in the middle of the city? Because no one hangs out in the city. It's where you go to work and you leave.
Yeah, it's an incredibly silly place. It makes like Wall Street and Lower Manhattan just look like child's play. All these like double backs and just sort of like, yeah, like you said, like, oh, this is where I store my horse for the evening.
Yeah, my hometown Needham is just I might be getting this backwards. It is either the mountain that was removed to fill in the swamp in Boston, or it is just where they took out all of the shit that was a hill in Boston and dumped it onto a swamp, and then that became Needham. One or the other. I gotta look it up.
Kind of the same thing. Okay.
Dirt went either away or towards.
One of the things that I think is like maybe Boston actually, because it has a pretty big finance sector, its Secretary of State or Secretary of the Commonwealth, excuse me, Alex, is this guy named William Galvin, and he is actually nationwide considered one of the most aggressive financial regulators in the country, mostly because of Alex's emotional support. And it's just weird because there was this huge rule that the SEC implemented. We've talked about it a lot. It's called Regulation Best Interest. Basically, what it says is that it defines the standard of conduct for financial professionals. So if you're selling or advising on, in any sort of financial capacity to regular people, then you have to follow certain standards of conduct. And basically, the Trump administration passed a rule called Regulation Best Interest, made it so that brokers have a lower standard than advisors, effectively. Massachusetts turns around and says, no, you're not going to do that. They pass a uniform standard of conduct between the two of them. And so now Massachusetts is the only state in the country where a broker-dealer has to follow a totally separate and higher standard of conduct than the rest of the country. And that's like just one of the things that this financial, the unhinged, evil, corrupt regulator is doing to harm the hardworking people of the financial sector.
Yeah, he said Donald Trump tried to pass this thing, and then he said, "Hey, do you like apples?" and then
I'm
and then
laughing because it's a reference to one of our favorite movies here in Boston.
and he shit in his open mouth. But
it's my favorite part of Good Will Hunting, when Ben Affleck shits in Matt Damon's mouth.
And then he says, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
Swallow this shit."
We like to have fun here, folks.
One of the most interesting, most Boston stories that I can actually think of is not Good Will Hunting, but it was this huge settlement that happened.
Is it The Departed?
It's actually not. That's the thing, is I feel like a lot of Boston culture is, and how it's depicted in film, is like a historic / South Side of Boston culture. But I can't speak for Alex on this one, but a lot of white people in Boston are much more white collar than The Departed makes it seem.
Yes, it's a city obsessed with oppression. Like, it's a lot of like wealthy guys being like, the Irish were slaves too. We're the capital of that in probably the world. And we like depicting this one really impoverished neighborhood to represent the 50 square miles of rich suburbanites. And you get movies like The Town and The Departed and stuff. Which, it is hard for the people who live there, but the people making those movies are not like them.
No.
And there's way more of them, is what I think, I have to understand. It's not like some areas of New York where there's there's a ton of rough working class people. Like maybe in during industrialization this was true. But now we're just a hub for money.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like this like false impression is kind of the way that TV depicts Hell's Kitchen. Like, everyone's like, Hell's Kitchen Manhattan, where Daredevil fights crime. And it's like, actually, there's just like a lot of like aspirant upper class gays.
Yeah, Hell's Kitchen. We're the toughest gay bars in America. Deal with crime.
They're gonna get ya.
It's like the families who are here for like 2 nights to see, Cats or whatever. Like, they go to one restaurant in Hell's Kitchen, and that's 70% of the neighborhood right there.
Daredevil should only be stopping gay crime. I think that would add the twist to make him stick out as the hero of Hell's Kitchen.
Yes, he's just walking into various clubs, and he's like, now to stop crime, and it's like,
no, he's walking into clubs, and he's like, you didn't ID me. What if I was underage?
He's just like looking up where people are like sending out the meme, be gay, do crimes, and he's like, you're under arrest.
I don't think so, fucko.
Why is he's not Batman?
He has the same voice. That's the problem, though, is he looks and acts just like Batman.
Except for he's blind.
He's blind, but can see due to his echolocation. Daredevil's the dumbest fucking hero. It makes me so mad.
He is much more Bat-like than Batman by that.
Yes!
Just saying.
He is more Bat-like than Batman. Also, he can see. He can see in 3 dimensions, so why even have him be blind?
Oh, it's cool. Come on. You know the answer to that, Alex. But this is a really very Boston story, actually. So MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where a lot of these Boston Dynamics people graduate from and stuff like that. Huge endowment. We
make a lot of great weapons over here.
A lot of great weapons, a lot of cool things, a lot of scary things. Most dystopian things are at MIT. And they just settled a lawsuit in 2019, okay, for essentially, it's this become a big thing in the financial sector of being charged for charging excessive fees in your 401k plan. Okay, so a 401k is like your employee's retirement plan, right? And you as the employer have an obligation to hire the best firm to manage your company's 401k plan. So if you've ever had a job, after you start that job, you'll get, if your job is a 401k, you'll get a letter from some random financial firm you've never heard of before. And you're like, I don't know what TIA is. I don't know what Vanguard is. I don't know what Fidelity is, but you'll get it. And that is your 401k. And basically, MIT manages a huge amount of 401ks. Some of them not 401ks. They're these other ones for teachers that are slightly different. But really, a lot of the 401ks are, for normal salaried staffers at MIT, which could just be like if you have a 401k for like the janitor or something like that. And they were managed at one point by Fidelity Investments, also headquartered in Boston. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you see where I'm getting with this. So massive MIT.
Where is this going?
Oh, you're bad.
So MIT has an endowment of, I think I looked this up earlier. It's somewhere it's like $13 billion.
As we say in Boston, that's a lot of chowder.
Yes, that's what we say. Yes.
They had a 16.4 billion, excuse me. And they essentially they chose to have their retirement plan for their workers managed by Fidelity Investments, also based out of Boston. Fun fact about Fidelity, the president of Fidelity has a very close relationship with MIT. Fidelity Investments on its own invested or donated $5 million to MIT. And they were I believe the president of MIT was given like courtside seats sponsored by MIT I think, to go to see the Celtics. Is that a Boston team?
One of the best teams,
Shut
David.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
And what ended up happening was they alleged that the lawsuit alleged that these fees were totally excessive, unreasonable, too many of them. And if you think about the scheme of what's happening, this is your boss and your boss's kind of the person who's supposed to be overseeing how you're paid, the person who's managing your 401k. Okay. The person who's managing your 401k is giving your boss money, donating $5 million to MIT. Okay. And in exchange, your boss is letting them charge you, the worker, excessive fees on your own retirement. What that ends up being is it's extracting fees from the worker, going to MIT, and then that in some ways going to Fidelity, and then in exchange for MIT being quiet, they're getting a kickback in donations.
Right, David, but what you're not considering is it's a great deal for the bosses because the Celtics are one of the best teams in Boston.
No, you don't understand. No, you're not seeing this the way I'm seeing this.
We're talking about a full evening at TD Bank North, okay? It's a hockey stadium. It's a basketball stadium. I saw Green Day there once. It's a great place to be. There's no better way to spend a Friday night.
Yeah, so that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, this ended up costing their employees tens of millions of dollars. And in return, MIT leveraged millions of dollars in donations from Fidelity Investments. And they sued. The lawsuit ended up settling for $18 million. And this is
million.
18 million. And this was the largest of these sorts of lawsuits at the time. I'm not really sure if it's the largest now, but big deal, big amount of money. And I think that is much more, from the way you're describing Boston, Alex, this is so much more of a Boston story than The Departed.
Well, that's not true because The Departed has Mark Wahlberg and Alec Baldwin in it, all doing different, exciting Boston accents. So I have a hard time imagining how this could be more Boston than that.
I really have a hard time understanding how this could be more Boston than that.
They got to put Whitey Bulger on ice. Good luck, pal.
What is more of a Boston University, Harvard or MIT? Or Boston College?
In terms... So, Harvard is the obvious answer because it's like the international Ivy old money king, and that's kind of what Boston is. But I think in terms of pure aesthetics and just representation and like what Boston feels like, Boston College is the answer because it is Catholic. You get a lot of confused Republicans there who just vote Democrat because they are from Boston and don't want to think of themselves as a hick. Just like this form of like white power that doesn't really exist in a lot of the country. Old white like 1960s power. Polo guys go there.
Rockefeller Republicans.
Yeah. Mitt Romney's, if you will.
Who did not go to Boston College.
I know. I'm just saying they have guys like him there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that helps. So maybe if this scandal had taken place at Boston College, it would be more. Is MIT considered culturally removed from Boston?
Yeah, MIT is like. I mean, if you are talking to someone from Boston, they'll be like, "Yeah, MIT, we got all the science or whatever." But I do think it exists in its own kind of cultural island of like, this is where the real shit goes down. Science aficionados probably regard it as its own culture over there.
It has a manic feel to it. It's a little bit of everything, but again, like David was saying, the big, what's the word? Dark energy does come from the financial sector at large.
It does. And this came up a little bit earlier when I think Danny was talking about how different Boston feels than New York. The thing about New York is it is the immigration capital of America. It's where a lot of people come in. and it's, for better or worse, in how it's implemented, a big melting pot of cultures and people and industries. Whereas Boston is old settlers, like from the Mayflower, who have just leveraged generational wealth for a full 300 years in the kind of odd ways that comes out. And then like racist institutional power from the 20th centuries that it has like one of the most segregated cities in the country. And nobody there thinks they're racist, but they all have never seen a black person. It's really strange.
Yeah, I have heard from, I mean, the famous, like, Michael Che called Boston the most racist city in America. I have a black friend from Boston who also said it was an incredibly racist city. Is that holds true to you? That rings true to you, Alex?
Yeah, because it's one of the few major North cities where segregation like was finished. There was a big fight over that in the 60s with busing. And I think essentially like the race mixing element of it lost because you just are not around other races most of the town. Like my town was all Irish and Jewish.
Well, I mean, it definitely feels like so like I said, I spent a decade in Portland, Oregon, which is, statistically speaking, the whitest city in America by
Nice.
yes, incredibly white.
I'll say not nice.
Nice. The difference though, it's like the difference though between like a place like Portland, Oregon and Boston is like, for one thing, I don't want to. Well, yeah, I'll just say, yeah, like the white supremacy thing in Oregon is it has roots there, but they're like, people are just sort of like they don't. It's like the racism or whatever. It's just friendlier and what have you, and just sort of like, I just don't. I guess I just don't know any black people.
Yeah,
and it's just like, whoopsie, my bad. And then also, which it is definitely worth noting, there are legitimate white supremacists who like existed there in like the 70s, and also like next door in Idaho, in Boise, huge white supremacist population, all that stuff. What you're describing in Boston though is like I said, much older, more sort of like entrenched energy of just sort of like it's like it doesn't have the veneer of just like ha ha ha, we're riding a bicycle and we're wearing a funny hat, ha 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 ha.
That's true.
Well,
no one
Boston's
in Boston
richer.
has a funny hat. Boston's way richer.
Boston's way richer than Portland. Also, I heard this story, and I might be wrong, but that Portland, Oregon was founded by two settlers. One was from Portland, Maine, and the other was from Boston, Massachusetts. And they flipped a coin to determine whether it was going to be called Boston or Portland.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. I believe Ambrose Burnside was one of the main. He was one of the main founders there for sure.
These are how all cities should be named.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think that. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but from what I understand, the difference between the racism in Portland and Boston is the racism of like Yankee aristocracy over time clutching to its own power, using racism as a tool. Whereas a lot of Portland was like designed by Confederate holdouts and like a purpose racist project.
Oregon was, from what I understand, was founded as a abolishing slavery as a slave-free state because they explicitly did not want black people in that state. Like Oregon was so racist they wanted to do their own field work.
Yeah, it was it started sort of as like a trading post sort of situation. The main populous city was Oregon City, or I can't remember the exact name, but like it was not Portland.
Was it
Portland
Squim?
No, that's Washington, you loser.
Whatever.
No, but you are absolutely right though. The sort of racist history of that came really sort of developing post slavery, where it was just like we ban, yeah, like what you're saying, we have banned slavery. It's like, okay, cool, so black people are allowed, and they're like, no. And it's just like, wait, what? Yeah, and they're like, yeah, we banned slavery. And then it's like, wait, but black people are allowed, right? And they're like, would you like a nice coffee? Like they basically they punted essentially on that, and now it sort of manifests itself in the form of quirky people who don't know any better who just drive Subaru Outbacks all over the place. But there is a deeply racist history to that. We're kind of on a tangent at this point, but point being,
I want to.
yeah.
So let's get off the tangent. I want to talk about the one last thing that President Trump did in office, which was the last round of commutations and pardons that he gave, because some of them are very funny, and this is something that is our beat and worth discussing. I want to first say there are quite a few of them that are about about like nonviolent drug arrests. I don't think it was nearly as many as what Obama did in his final month in office, but he still did quite a few commutations of nonviolent drug offenses and things like that. But there was also some really great ones. James E. Johnson was pardoned for pleading guilty in charges related to migratory birds. There was
Free my man.
Benedict Oldberling, who convicted on one count of bank fraud, but after he completed his sentence, he purchased 2 aquarium stores. That's amazing. There was Adriana Chioda. She was convicted of conspiracy to traffic in counterfeit goods, commit copyright infringement, and introduce misbranded food into interstate commerce. I have to know what food this was. What was was it peanut butter? Like
David sent me over the article that basically showed every pardon as it existed, and it was weird. And I have to say, the media coverage of the pardons, particularly, has been strange. I mean, like, I don't watch MSNBC or CNN or anything like that, so I can't completely speak to everything they're saying. But largely, it just seems like they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that this departing president pardoned over 125 people." And then I looked at the list, and it's like, boy, oh boy, are there just a lot of nonviolent drug offenders on there. And not just marijuana, by the way. He pardoned a lot of people for like meth and coke. There's even a guy who got pardoned for making LSD. Like,
I saw that.
It's really funny. There's a ton of nonviolent drug offenders. There's definitely a big handful of financial things that are weird.
Yes.
For sure. Definitely a lot of them. And then, as David was saying, there is just a nice little mixture of oddballs and wingdings, aka the guy who like had too many migratory birds, which is funny because Joe Exotic was like, Donald Trump was he didn't pardon me because I was just too gay and too weird for him. And I think there is a non-zero chance that when they were explaining the pardoning process to Donald Trump, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to pardon Joe Exotic?" He's like, "Oh, we already got an animal guy." Like,
I got birds guy. I put it all on birds guy.
Exactly.
There's also the Jorgensen family, which gathered a group of South Dakota cattle producers to market and sold processed beef. The Jorgensens marketed their beef under the Dakota Lean brand and sold the premium product as heart healthy and antibiotic and hormone free. When demand outstripped supply, the family mixed in inferior commercial beef trim and knowingly sold misbranded beef.
It's fucking hilarious because his pardons are just an extension of every business venture that he's had. Like, one of them is like the Trump steak situation. And then I think I can't remember if there was a vodka guy or something in there.
No,
but
there was a guy.
The pardons are a perfect crystallization of like the media misunderstanding Trump. Because if you were to guess who Donald Trump would be pardoning based on like his reputation, you'd be like operators, war criminals, open Nazis, and then that would be it. And then in real life, it's like a man who loves my beef. He's one of the only people who supports me and loves me.
There are a lot of Republican donors in this as well. And again, it's kind of like the misunderstanding that Trump is like somehow like above the partisan fray or something like that. And like there's a few people who just like this guy Elliot Brody, who if you look at his Wikipedia page, just has just constant things like just he there was something with a sexual affair in some like Playboy Playmates non-disclosure agreements. There was some like business and political dealings. This guy's just been going through also just astounding amounts of like fraud and bribes and things like that with the RNC as well. There are 3 people who personally were vouched for by Alan Dershowitz on this list.
Thank you, President Trump.
This guy's maybe the funniest one though, who's just like an open like crook. Okay, there's this guy Alex Ptak, and he is usually in like in the whole list. They have some sort of thing that he did. Okay, all it says about his crime, it says Mr. Ptak was convicted of a financial crime and served 5 years in prison. And what if you look it up? What he did? This is some real estate guy that Donald Trump knew, and you know who asked for the special favor in order to give the pardon was Chaim Chera on behalf of his late father Stan Chera.
Stan Chera.
The way he went out, I just can't think about it. I hope I never go out like Stan.
I hope I never do.
Yeah, this guy was just an associate of Stan Chera who was trying to launder Colombian drug money through his real estate adventures. That's just amazing. Like that is the sort of pardon that you're going to get for a classic Trump pardon.
Yeah,
you can't. I feel like Alex Ptak sums up the whole thing.
I do feel like when you commit white collar crime, you are, in a way, stealing Boston's culture and appropriating it. And that is something we've been really mad about around here.
The other funny thing too is like I mean people did focus quite a bit on some of the higher profile pardons, like obviously Steve Bannon, he's in there, and then Lil Wayne is also there.
Yep.
But
Kodak Black as well.
Honestly, the weirdest thing is that Kodak Black kind of seems sort of like the weird, like it's that one. That one's completely out of left field for me. I never have heard Donald Trump mention Kodak Black once. Or, I mean, honestly, I could be wrong about this. Like, he might have talked about him several times. But I think that was another weird thing where he's like, well, Lil Wayne is my friend, and I'll pardon him. And then somebody was probably like, you should pardon another rapper. And then they're like, they talked to some of Lil Wayne's people and like, who's another rapper? And they're like, Kodak Black. He's like, all right.
Can I pardon ASAP Rocky again? Is that something I could do? We're good friends.
Yeah. And which is strange because again, like out of all the like sort of like high profile pardons, like the Kodak Black one seems like the darkest one because it seems like he was kind of a genuinely bad guy. Like like he's sort of like a pretty troubled, like, you know, like again,
like DMX has been to jail like 10 times and that guy does not deserve a pardon anymore. He's killed like hundreds of dogs.
yes. Yeah. So that one was really strange, and again, like somewhat definitely just sort of like, ooh, like like you could make a case. It's like, yeah, we'll pardon Lil Wayne because clearly he just caught like a weird gun charge,
and he endorsed Trump.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, that guy, Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne is real smart, but also that he's drank way too much lean. Like his
brain is purple now. He has the same mind as Grimace.
Do you guys remember that commercial where he's pouring champagne on the cell phone? I like that part of Lil Wayne.
That's cool. Yeah, Lil Wayne has a lot to offer. Anytime you're interested, Mr. Wayne, you are welcome to become an honorific Bostonian. You can move into one of our fine suburbs to be discriminated against in. We would love to have you.
I think Trump probably pardoned him as well, just because, like, I mean, not to. Lil Wayne he's quite little, and Donald Trump is not little, and I think he just wanted to get that picture where you've got all 6'4" of Donald Trump next to like Lil Wayne, who is maybe 5'3". Like he just wanted that picture.
Is Lil Wayne 5'3"?
Lil Wayne is incredibly little.
You've got to be exaggerating this. I'm fact checking right now. Somebody come back to me.
I'm fact checking. I'm looking at.
I'm gonna do it
Little
first.
Wayne.
5'5".
Little.
That is very small. Though. I'll give you that. That's very small.
That is a credit. That's quite little. It's little.
I'm just imagining him like, getting piggybacked by Danny DeVito. Like just getting smaller and smaller every single time.
He become the size of one full size man. You're saying?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Lil Wayne for a while made a song every day. That's really inspirational. You could never say I'm too dumb to work hard. If this guy who has destroyed his own brain is making like an album a week.
Eazy-E was only 5'3".
Really?
I'm just looking up short rappers now.
And he was having sex because he died of AIDS.
Oh.
He did.
Or drugs. He could have been doing drugs.
I think it was probably from the sex.
I think it was the sex.
I think it was all the fucking sex.
I want to go over the last two because I think that this really signals where Trump is headed as a Florida resident and probably potentially going to be indicted on some sort of criminal and civil charges recently. He pardoned this guy named Fred Clark. Fred, quote, Dave Clark. His nickname is Dave.
Dirty Dave.
Hey, what's up? I'm Alex Dave Ptak. So he was supported by Professor Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr, and a few other people. And it didn't. So the thing is that all these pardons give one little sentence as to what they were charged with. This is one of the few ones that describe nothing about what he did. So I had to look it up. And this was, I think, from the Miami Herald. This guy was the CEO of K Clubs and Resorts and Marina. And he got a 40-year prison stint for this. Okay. Promised to turn dilapidated properties in Florida, Vegas, and the Caribbean into luxury resorts. He raised more than $300 million.
Whoa!
From 1,400 investors who were promised, some money from it in 20%. And then it was really just a Ponzi scheme. That was the whole thing.
I am legally obligated to remind the audience that is a lot of chowder.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was doing Firefest before it was cool.
Respect.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was skimming through some of them, I did see a Ponzi scheme in there. So we do have a legitimate namesake of the pod that was pardoned. Because that. Follow-up, Big Sean, 5'8". Big Sean
wow.
is only 5'8". Just a heads up.
That's one of those ironic names.
Maybe he's just big compared to Lil Wayne.
It's true.
Look.
Together they complete a system.
Yeah. They're
Big Sean. Little Wayne. Rick Ross, he's got to be 6'2". I'm sorry, I'm on a whole tip right now.
So one of the last kind of funny ones was this guy named Dr. Solomon Melgen of Palm Beach County. And he was convicted of Medicare fraud about 4 years ago. And again, and some false statements. And I don't know. I don't want to go into all the details of his specific Medicare fraud because I don't know. I don't really feel like it. And I don't know. He committed Medicare fraud, folks. Google it. All right. But another funny thing that he did was he was involved in this bribery accusation against Senator Robert Menendez, the Democrat from New Jersey, for taking this guy, Robert Menendez, to all these trips to Florida all the time. He just flew him out to Florida, not a constituent of his. Bob Menendez is in New Jersey, but Bob Menendez in New Jersey, one of the biggest states for the pharmaceutical industry in the country. And this guy was just taking his old friend, Bob Menendez to vacations like many times a year, helping him out with all these sorts of gifts, arranging him to meet all these really great ladies that he just got in a really great deal from Russia, and all these sorts of alleged things. And yeah. So Bob Menendez was involved very heavily with Dr. Solomon Melgen, the Medicare fraudster, and Trump just pardoned him. So we're very happy for everyone involved.
The system works.
I just I wanna thank our beautiful guest Alex. You look great, man. No matter what Danny says about you. And
thanks, man.
No, that's not true. I have to fact check that.
I look like a beautiful Barbie doll.
That's right.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, David.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been an honor to be on the show. Donate my earnings to the children.
Do you have anything to plug, Alex?
Oh, yes, I actually have 3 podcasts.
Woo!
So if you like podcasts, oh, Maron, you're in for a treat, because I got so many fucking podcasts. I got Pod Damn America, which is the politics podcast. You'd probably like that if you're listening to this. Or Ballin' Out Super is my anime comedy show. And I have a radio drama that I write, produce, and voice myself. I do all the little voices and sound effects. They're called Theater of Delights. So if you love high-intensity thrills, like the high-intensity world of finance, you should listen to Theater of Delights. And
what's your Alex, you've done a couple different projects for Theater of Delights, or rather, I don't know what you call them, seasons.
Dreamspirations.
Yeah, what's one was on Aaron Brockovich being the Grinch.
She
one
has
was
to prove that a company is hiding the Grinch.
Yes, and then the first one, which had some consultation by yours truly, that was Pedophile High School.
Yeah, available on the Theater of Delights feed. Pedophile High School.
Can you let the people know what the upcoming one is about?
The upcoming one is a brutal dystopia in the distant future where weed is illegal, and the government has hired squadrons of goons that they send to go find weed and burn it with flamethrowers, and they're called firemen. And the show is going to be called Fahrenheit 420, the temperature at which weed burns.
Wonderful.
That's beautiful, dude. I can't wait.
Thanks. I'll send it right over when it's done.
All right, that sounds good. You heard it here, folks. I'm getting something for free from Alex. So thanks for coming on again, and have a good one.
All right, bye.
Have a pleasant Boston-style afternoon.